Hello everybody, welcome back to The Geek Factor. Vintage Story is a rather large game. With rich lore and deep survival mechanics, there's a lot that goes on in this game that you may not be privy to. So today I wanted to go through 10 tiny details in no particular order that you may have missed when playing Vintage Story. These range from useful to downright silly in nature. I guarantee that at least one of these details will surprise you. Of course, there are some spoilers for Vintage Story ahead. That being said, I won't touch on much of the story today, so don't worry about any lore spoilers here. Not today, at least. Let me know if you found any of these 10 details interesting and which ones you didn't know about. With that, let's get started. You should also like and subscribe, it helps me a ton. Kicking off our journey into tiny details is, well, something fairly useful. By now, I'm sure most of you know that different stone types have different durabilities when it comes to making tools. Specifically, knives made from flint and obsidian have a higher durability than knives made from other rocks. But did you know there's a way to get even more durability out of your early game knives? If you happen to kill an animal of decent size or stumble upon a carcass, you can actually use the bones of that animal to form a tool handle that is stronger than a stick, giving you just a little bit more durability to harvest mushrooms or grass. Pretty neat. And speaking of rocks, we all know that you can throw rocks at animals or enemies to spook them or get their attention while dealing just a little bit of damage. We've all had a drifter throw a rock at our heads once or twice, it's quite annoying. But did you know that you can throw rocks across water and they'll skip along the surface just like in real life? I'm serious, try this sometime. Grab a rock and just chuck it across the lake. You'll see that it bounces several times before finally falling into the water. This is a really fun feature that doesn't really need to exist, but I'm happy that it does nonetheless. Side note, I am actually pretty good at skipping rocks in real life, just a little fun fact. Sticking with our theme of rocks, did you know that ores always generate in a disk pattern? In other sandbox games like Minecraft, ores generate in different patterns based on the ore type, but most ores in Vintage Story will generate in a disk shape. That's all well and good, but did you know that the shape of the disk can change depending on the land above? If you're in a relatively flat area and stumble into some ore, it's very likely that the shape of the ore disk will be flat, meaning that most blocks are horizontal to each other. However, if you're in an area that is more varied and has hills, it's very likely that the ore generated will generate at an angle instead of perfectly flat. They retain their disk shape, however, it changes to sort of match the land above it. Of course, there are a few exceptions to this rule, like silver or gold, which generate in their own shapes that aren't ore disks. Alright, are you tired of talking about rocks? I am too. Let's move on to something a little bit more interesting. Shivers. Shivers are a hostile mob added to Vintage Story during the 1.20 update. Shivers are horrifying creatures that move around like spiders that can also climb 3-block tall walls and split their heads open while running toward the player. It's absolutely terrifying. Many people know about their occasional idle animation where they will just stop and convulse in the ground like a curl-up dying spider, but did you know there's a much more rare and secret animation that can play if you hang around one long enough? On very rare occasions, a shiver will stand up on its hind legs and stare up at the sky for just a few moments. Personally, I've only seen this happen once before, maybe make it twice for the purpose of this recording, but I am extremely unsettled by this animation. It makes you wonder if they're cursed to this malformed spider-like posture, but have just enough strength to occasionally stand up and damn the gods that created them. Or maybe they're just stretching. Who knows? It's a very creepy and unsettling detail nonetheless. Coming in at number 5, we have a much less creepy and more silly detail. When playing Vintage Story, there are a number of commands that can be useful to the player. Of course, there's /game mode, so you can switch between creative or survival mode. There's /timeset or even world edit built into creative mode. But did you know that there's a fun, hidden command that is never really talked about? Go into chat and type .notminecraft. Trust me, it's worth it. Doing so will cause a small box to pop up at the top left of your screen confirming that no, this is not Minecraft. I love this feature because I've had several people asking me while I've live streamed Vintage Story if I'm playing modded Minecraft, and this little command is just the perfect way to let anyone watching that know this is in fact not Minecraft, and I love it. Pivoting here at number 6, there are many creatures in Vintage Story, and they all come with their own unique animations and behaviors. For example, you may often find foxes chasing chickens or rabbits, or bears hunting down literally anything they can get their hands on, but something I bet you haven't noticed is that raccoons will take berries from bushes. I actually discovered this when I was out adventuring and picked some berries to grab a quick snack. It's a pretty cute little detail, and that's why I put it on this list. If you ever have a berry farm going, consider putting up a fence to get those little pesky trash pandas out of your fruits. Something a little bit more useful is that you can actually free your cursor at any time by pressing Alt. This allows you to do some tasks, such as making pottery or shaping metal, far more easily. Instead of having to move your camera around bit by bit, you can keep it in the same spot and move your cursor across the screen instead. I didn't know about this until someone pointed it out to me in a comment section, so thank you, random person. I actually greatly appreciate this. You've saved me a lot of headaches when working the forge. Seriously, try this one out sometime. It really is a lot easier to make pottery. It was never that hard in the first place, but it's one of those mechanics that once you realize how good it is, you never really want to go back to doing it any other way. Speaking of useful mechanics, did you know that some surface ruins have little underground bunkers or pieces of themselves buried underground? I assume this is simply due to how much time has passed since civilization was wiped out. These little bunkers underground usually contain like a chest or a storage vessel, or of course a skeleton or two. No worries though, with a little glue we could take our skeleton friend right back home with us. I actually, in one of my first survival worlds, I set up a base in ruins and spent months in this ruin living there, not realizing that there was a whole basement right below me. And then I went to make my cellar, and I discovered that there was already a little cellar below my ruined house. It was pretty cool. Coming in at number 9, we have a strange room in the Resonance Archive. The Resonance Archive is the first dungeons players will go through in Vintage Story's, story. It's a rather large dungeon which has some really interesting puzzles and enemies to fight, as well as a climactic boss fight. But did you know there's actually a room in here that is upside down? Due to how dark it is in here, you'll likely never notice this, but this room in the living quarters of the archives is mirrored on the ceiling. The bed and other objects are literally just on the ceiling. This happens every time. Every time the structure generates, it will generate in this way, suggesting that something very strange and weird is happening within this place, something that is causing the reality to shift or warp, and I think the implications of that are pretty interesting. Next time you're going through this dungeon, maybe look up. Just don't get attacked by a locust while you're staring at the ceiling. And finally, we have another useful detail: meteoric iron circles. Meteoric iron is an extremely powerful metal in Vintage Story, sitting just below steel in terms of its strength and durability. It also looks cool as hell. Alas, finding this stuff can be very tricky, but did you know you can find deposits of it without using a prospecting pick at all? All you have to do is find a relatively flat area and look on your map for any small, perfectly circular craters in the ground. And when I say perfect, I mean perfect. Malformed circles will not do. These are extremely rare, but once you see one, you can never unsee it. It's a very tiny detail, but if you ever happen to be scanning your map for whatever reason and happen to notice a perfect circle in the ground, there's a good chance it's meteoric iron just waiting to be mined. And that's it. Those are just 10 tiny details you may have missed in Vintage Story. If you'd like to see more fun videos like this, let me know in the comment section below. Are there any tiny details that I missed that you think are worth noting? Type them in a comment and I may feature your comment in a future video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.